Hey guys, in this video we're going to learn two very weird rasgueos by two flamenco guitar masters that almost nobody ever uses so that we can level up our rasgueo technique. A quick reminder of what rasgueo is: that's pretty much any time that we whack the strings with our nails. A very, very common one is this guy right here, the 4-stroke rasgueo. If you've heard Spanish guitar ever in your life, you've heard that sound. 2, 3, 4. Okay? Another very common one, a very awesome one, is this thing, what I call the triplet rasgueo, where you go up with the thumb, down with the middle, down with the thumb. The first one, the 4-stroke, was pinky, ring, middle, index. So that's how those two techniques are normally played. But what we're going to see in this lesson is two different ways to play them that are very weird and I find very hard to do. But if we practice these, even if we don't use them in our regular playing, it's going to make the normal way that we play rasgueos so much better, so much cleaner, so much crisper, and so much more efficient. Let's start off with kind of a famous weird rasgueo, and that comes from Juan Serrano. One of the first flamenco books I ever had was Basic Techniques, a very popular, very famous book from him. And throughout that book, he plays the rasgueo in a very weird way that I had never seen anybody else play. And over the years, I've read interviews with him, and he acknowledges that this is something that nobody else does. He actually thought this was the way you're supposed to do it when he was first learning. He just learned it this different way. It really is a testament to the idea that you can practice anything. If you practice it enough, you can do it efficiently and cleanly and really, really well. And it's also a lesson that teaches us that we don't have to do the rasgueo the way that it says on the page. We can actually dream up creative ways to play the rasgueo that works for us, that we like, and that our hands are comfortable with. So we'll take a snippet here from his Faruca, which goes like this normally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2. That's just the common, very standard way that you'll hear the Faruca compas played. So what I did there was I got an E7 chord for one measure. We're not really doing rasgueo there, although one could argue that just an index downstroke is the rasgueo, right? Hitting the nail against the string, in addition to the upstroke. But we're really here talking about multiple finger striking of the string, you could say. So in E7, we're playing 1 and 2, 3. Go to A minor, 1 and 2, and then I do a 4-stroke. This is the common way: pinky, ring, middle, index. Sometimes you'll have an extra F note in there, which sounds cool. So the reason that it's so common to do it that way is that we end up with the index finger on a very strong downbeat, usually an accented place, right? So we start in a weak place and end in a strong place. Well, that's actually perfectly in keeping with our fingers, right? Pinky is weak for everybody, less weak, right? Less weak, stronger, and then our strongest finger here. It really makes conceptual and technique sense to get into a strong beat that way. So again, this is the normal way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, triplet, 3 and 4. And so when you do that, you're usually rendering a quick triplet. In this case, we could call it a 16 or 30-second note triplet, depending on when exactly you do it. And landing on, with that index finger, onto a longer note, like this. Da, 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 da. So common in so much music, like that. Definitely want to be able to do that. But check out how Juan Serrano does this. See the difference? He flips it around, and instead of starting with the pinky, he starts with the index finger, and it gives us a different rhythm. Instead of a quick triplet into a long note, we have more even notes, 16th notes like this. 1, 2, and a 3, 4. So we're still kind of doing the quote-unquote normal 4-stroke rasgueo, except we're starting with the index instead of the pinky, and we just kind of continue back around like we normally would. And that creates a problem, as you'll see. That's a great technique builder for us. We're going down with the index, then down with the pinky, ring, middle, index, like that. So we want to go 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2. Now the problem here that most people would have is that it's very hard to play a downstroke with your index and immediately get your pinky going. Let's go back to the normal one. We have pinky, ring, middle, index. If we try to do a bunch of those in a row, here's what happens very often. See, it's not even, because it's so hard to recover the pinky when you come back around again. We want to go like this and get better at that. It's very difficult to do a continuous, even stream of those. That's where we might use that triplet rasgueo instead, like this. If you just wanted to get a continuous flow of rasgueo, that's why most people really don't do continuous rasgueo, the 4-stroke, because it's so hard. But if you practice doing this the Juan Serrano way, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, it's going to go a long way towards you being able to do an even, continuous stream of 4-stroke rasgueo, which is so hard to do. So rhythmically with this weird rasgueo, we get more of a rigid, more mechanical sound, you could say, because we start on a strong beat and end on a strong beat, whereas that's not usually the case with the other 4-stroke, right? We start on a weak one, 1, 2, 3, like that. But here he's going ba-da-da-da-dum, starting on a beat and ending on a beat. 1 and a 2. Notice when I do this, I make a fist, out with the index, and then bring the index back in when you start the pinky. You find that's probably the easiest way to do it, so your index doesn't get confused along the way. You don't have to do that, but I like to do that. Very hard to do them continuously. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Doing the Juan Serrano weird 4-stroke rasgueo is a really great way to up the ante on your technique. Even though I did this a long time ago from that book, over the years I kind of neglected doing that, and it's not really something that we ever used, like I said. But recently I have been going back to that rasgueo just as a technique exercise, and I'm noticing how hard it is. But the better I'm getting at it, I really can feel it creeping into my other normal rasgueos. Now let's take a look at another very weird rasgueo. We're talking here about the triplet rasgueo. Such a great technique. Hear it in context like that a lot. Here, kind of like the normal 4-stroke, we have a triplet into a longer note going da-da-dum. I could do it with a 4-stroke the normal way, ba-da-bum, right? A triplet plus 1, I like to say, or like this with a triplet rasgueo. So the customary way to do the triplet rasgueo is to go up with the thumb, down with the middle, down with the thumb. It's one of those things where it kind of is hard to memorize that pattern for your right hand. But once you get familiar with that, it's actually one of the easier, like, tensionless things that you could do in Spanish guitar, I would say. I could sit here all day and do this, and I wouldn't fatigue nearly as quickly as if I did a bunch of these in a row. So it's actually something that we can incorporate our wrist into to help get some efficiency. But the purposes of this video is to show you different fingers that we can do. Now, I've seen other people do this. I think it's a more traditional way of doing this, but in Paco Peña's book, Toques Flamencos, it says in the beginning of the book, a special type of rasgueado developed by Paco Peña requires a different approach. I'm not sure if that's true because I have seen other people do it, but here's what he does. So instead of going up with the thumb, down with the middle, down with the thumb, he goes up with the thumb, down with the pinky. Oh no, already we got problems, right? And then down with the index, right? So we're using our weakest finger for this rasgueo, but we still are going up, down, down, just like we did in the other one. So I find that to be very, very weird, but the benefit of that is working your pinky more, which we all need more help on, even in the left hand, or especially in the left hand. Our pinky is our weakest finger, so we kind of need to work that out more. So if you practice the rasgueo this way, the triplet rasgueo with your pinky, you'll find that doing that normal rasgueo, the 4-stroke that I was talking about at the beginning, not the Juan Serrano way, but even the Juan Serrano way, but the normal way that you're most likely to play a rasgueo, this weird triplet rasgueo from Paco Peña, we think, is going to supercharge your pinky. Notice when I do that triplet rasgueo, I'm keeping fingers out and away from the strings that aren't being used or aren't going to be used, and that's great for not confusing your fingers. So I'm coming up like this, look up with a thumb, and my index and my pinky both came up at the same time, like that. And you can even flick your index off of your thumb if you want to. A modification of this weird rasgueo, which is not uncommon, is to, instead of your pinky, use your ring finger like this. Up, down, down, up, down, down. And that's a great trainer for getting this rasgueo down. I think you should always be on the lookout for different ways that you can play any given technique, even if you actually don't use it when you perform. It's just a great way to train and kind of confuse your fingers, just so we can make our fingers stronger, have more endurance, and be able to adapt on the fly. Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and you can check out my monthly membership where I teach all kinds of stuff like this, all kinds of tabs available to you, play along videos galore, monthly meetups, all kinds of stuff. Check that out at theversatileguitarist.com/membership.